Tonight on Joy News Prime, 6 soldiers, including a female officer, charged in connection with what government says was an elaborate plot targeted at the presidency. The judge has meanwhile ordered that the suspects be given access to their families one after one of the soldiers wept uncontrollably in court on Monday. 2 of 3 suspects wanted in connection with killing of 2 traffic police officers at Kaswa Buduburam turned themselves in after they were declared wanted last week. Former Shraj Commissioner proposes constitutional amendment to curb what he describes as the extensive powers of the president.
The constitution we have is flawed in so many respects. The excessive powers of appointment given to the president.
Despite assurances from the Education Ministry, there are still parents complaining the awards are yet to be placed in senior high schools.
Last week, Monday, they were asked to check our phones. There will be message or call on Thursday. If I'm going to bath, the phone is with me. If I'm going to the phone is with me. If I'm eating, any message that comes, my heartbeat, I thought maybe they called me, they couldn't get me. Because if you miss the call, that is all. So I always have the phone close to me. So that whenever they call me quickly, I'll just pick and answer their call. Up to today, I didn't hear anything.
I'm Israel Line. Joy News Prime comes to you live from the Joy News studio at Kokomlemle here in Accra with digital address GA09. The police have arrested 2 more suspects said to have been involved in the killing of 2 officers at Kaswa Buduburam in the Central Region in August this year. The 2, Michael Safo and Kwesi Eje Elias K, are said to have turned themselves in after the police announced a manhunt for them and 1 other suspect still on the run. The 3, according to the police, were riding in the same vehicle as Eric Kojo-Dua, who shot and killed the 2 traffic policemen. 6 others initially charged before an Accra District Court in relation to the crime were released last week. The 2 policemen were on task force duties on the Kaswa-Winneba Highway the day they were killed. The 2 have been remanded and the case adjourned till October 9. And 6 serving soldiers were on Monday arraigned in connection with an alleged plot to destabilize the country. They add to the 5 suspects who have already been put before court for their roles in the subversion government says was targeted at the presidency. Matilda Vomega, who was in court for Joy News, reports among the 6 arraigned before the Kaneshie District Court was 1 female soldier and another officer who worked uncontrollably throughout the hearing, compelling the judge to order that they be given access to their families.
The 6 were charged with possession of explosives, arms and ammunition without lawful authority in a hearing which lasted less than 10 minutes. They are Lance Corporal Ali Solomon, Albert Baba Ibrahim, Godwin Ni Ankara and Sylvester Kpebu, with a female soldier only identified as WO2 Esther. Only one of them had legal representation. The 6th soldier, Seidu Abubakar, broke down in tears when they were called into the dock. He could only utter "my family" when the judge asked if he was being manhandled. Seidu added, "I don't know anything about this issue." The judge then asked the prosecutor, "What is the problem? Do they have access to their family?" To which the prosecutor answered, "Not at the moment." The judge then turned to the only female suspect and asked, "Do you have a lawyer?" Amidst sobs, WO2 Esther stated, "My husband is here, but they have not allowed me to see him." The judge then turned to her husband and asked if they had a lawyer, and he answered no. The judge then told the prosecutor that the suspects should be allowed access to their families and lawyers while in custody. A senior military officer, Colonel Samuel Kojo Gameli, and a civilian employee of the Ghana Armed Forces, Gershon Akpa, were last Friday arraigned and slapped with similar charges as part of what government says an elaborate plot to subvert the state. The 3 other suspects, including the CEO of Citadel Hospital, Dr. Mark Pam, were charged last week Monday. The case of the 6 soldiers have been adjourned to October 9. Matilda Vomega for Joy News.
Former boss of the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Emil Short, is calling for amendments of aspects of Ghana's laws which give extensive powers to the president, especially in appointment of ministers. At an event to launch a research project on Ghana's rights information journey, Justice Short blamed the extent of power given the president as a cause of the divisive nature of the country's politics.
I am urging the government to revive and resuscitate the constitutional amendment process. The constitution we have is flawed in so many respects, and we need to address these certain provisions. You mentioned, for example, the provision that government can appoint the majority of ministers from parliament. That has rendered weak, very weak, parliamentary oversight of the executive. That provision has to be looked at critically. And then the excessive powers of appointment given to the president, which has really made our politics so divisive, you and I. So the responsibility lies with civil society to make sure that, some of these changes are made.
He also wants speedy passage of the Public Officers Conduct Bill and a relook at some sections of it, which he says some public officials use as justification for clear conflict of interest deals.
Government must ensure the speedy passage of that law, and there are certain provisions which we need to revisit. And I mentioned the provision, for example, about where officials can use as a defense the fact that they have recused themselves from the deliberations in awarding contracts to their own company. And I'm saying that provision needs to be revisited because I don't think it is in the interest of transparency to allow people who exercise influence over the award of contracts to bid for contracts in the institution over which they have such an influence.
On vote buying, he said it is distorting the country's politics and wants leaders of the NDC and MPP to denounce the practice.
It is wrong. It is wrong. And I think that I am hoping that the leaders of both political parties will make a statement and let people know, their supporters know, that the aspirants, either parliamentary aspirants or presidential aspirants, that it is wrong to indulge in vote buying. It is not acceptable. It's a way of monetization of our politics. It means that the highest bidder wins. If you have more money, then you are able to buy votes. And it is on record that a lot of aspirants bribe the delegates. And so it is something that is seriously distorting our politics, and we need to have a critical look at this practice of vote buying.
Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Haji Alima Mahama, has called on the media to intensify education and create awareness on the upcoming referendum to allow political parties participate in local government elections. According to the minister, the election of MMDCAs will deepen operations of substructures of the local governance system. She made these comments at a forum on the referendum here in Accra. Henry Kwesi Badu's report read to you.
At least 40% of registered voters must show up for the election, with 75% voting yes to make Ghana's district assembly elections partisan. Speaking at a multi-stakeholders forum on MMDC's referendum, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development urged the media to educate the public on the impending elections to make this attainable.
If you look at the Constitution, the kind of executive power it gives to the president, when I sit there, I will talk about that. Executive powers, a power in the hands of the president. So this is an opportunity for us to start taking out some of that power for them, the executive, and allowing the people to choose their mayors. Those at the community level who are responsible to provide leadership for them to develop their areas, as also realize their own potentials. So the Inky fraternity, I need your help. We need your help to support us in this. And let's look at it from a bipartisan perspective. Let's look at it from a bipartisan perspective. At the end of the day, it's for Ghana, it's not for MPP. So we need your help to support us in this. One, talk to the MPs. to pass the 2431 in Parliament. You relate to them, you interact with them all the time. Tell them, why are you not passing this bill? It's important that we pass it. Talk to them to pass it. When we resume, then it will be passed. And secondly, then the 55.3 comes in. Help us, social responsibility. We may not have money to do the adverse like political parties do the adverse. This is a program that we want you to help us for national development. So we need your help to support us. Send a message across so that people will turn out 17th December to vote.
Some participants shared their views and experiences after the event.
It is a very important thing for every Ghanaian, whether you are partisan or non-partisan, to accept reforms. Reforms are everywhere, and if we want our democracy to grow, then it is incumbent on everybody to look at the role to play in ensuring that this reform is realized.
Mostly when ministries, agencies and departments are rolling out these things, the assumption is that everybody out there, especially those of us in the media, we know. And there's no need for them to educate us on it. But sitting through the session, you understand that there are some issues that you didn't actually know about. For instance, it was revealed that once the amendment is done, it means political parties can even sponsor their candidates to participate in the assembly membership elections. It means that that's an open kind of a thing. I didn't know that. I thought it was going to be limited to only the MMDCEs.
For this to be a reality, 2/3 majority of members of parliament should vote to amend Article 243, Clause 1 to allow district chief executives to be elected. The referendum is set to take place on December 17, 2019. For Joy News, Henry Kwesi Bedu's report.
We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime, but still ahead, despite assurances from the Education Ministry, there are still parents complaining their awards are yet to be placed in senior high schools.
Last week, Monday, they were asked to check our phones. There will be message or call on Thursday. If I'm going to bath, the phone is with me. If I'm going to shit, the phone is with me. If I'm eating, any message that comes, my heartbeat, I thought maybe they called me, they couldn't get me. Because if you miss the call, that is all. So I always have the phone close to me, so that whenever they call me quickly, I'll just pick and answer their call. Up to today, I didn't hear anything.
Scores of parents on Monday besieged the Ghana Education Service offices in Accra over what they describe as unfair treatment by officials. Many of them believed, based on assurances given by the ministry 2 weeks ago, that the awards would be placed in senior high schools. They, however, say the awards are still at home, whilst their colleagues have been in school for weeks now. Thousands of parents, together with the awards, thronged the Black Star Square weeks ago when the placement of the students became a full-blown crisis. Though Minister of Education, Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh, had assured the issues had been resolved, the parents who gathered at the ministry on Monday told a different story.
Last week, Monday, they were asked to check our phones. There will be message or call on Thursday. So when we were waiting for the call and the message, Thursday, nothing happened. Friday, nothing happened. Saturday, nothing happened. Then we decided to come today and check what is going on. Up to now, they give us Thursday. We didn't hear anything.
And when you arrived?
Nobody was there. He wanted to do electricals. There are electrical schools, technical schools in my hometown. Then let me try and change the child from that voter to my hometown so that he'll be able to pursue his dream. When I came, they took my information, particularly, I was asked to go home, they will call me. If it is today that Jesus will come, that they will call me, I'll be waiting for the call. If I'm going to bath, the phone is with me. If I'm going to if I'm eating, any message that comes, my heartbeat, I thought maybe they called me, they couldn't get me. Because if you miss the call, that is all. So I always have the phone close to me, so that whenever they call me quickly, I'll just pick and answer their call. Up to today, I didn't hear anything.
If I'm working under you, and I've been asking permission every day to check my child's school replacement, I would be happy. Nah, I've been here since last 2 weeks. When you come, they will just give you forms, then you fill, knowing they will give you a replacement. Yet, you came here today, they said you should no, if they didn't attend to us, you were Independence Square, and you met here, you met this nice man, you spoke to us. Master, he said you should go next week again. Look at the hell we are going through. My child is crying every day because all his friends are saying they are going to school. It is nice.
When they called last week, I was school.
I was called last week from my ward secondary school to come and get her since her name was not in the official records. I refused to do so. My ward is still there and I'm here to ensure that she's not sacked. This is wrong. Our leaders are not helping us nor our children.
Right, so we move on to some other news which may not be so pleasant. It has to do with an increase in utility tariffs, that's electricity and water. The announcement came from the PRC a short while ago. So it reads, following a review of electricity and water tariffs for the fourth quarter 2019, which is from October to December 2019, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission wishes to announce for the information of consumers of electricity and water that there has been an upward adjustment in the existing tariffs. The increase is 5.94% on electricity tariffs and 2.22% on water across board for all customer categories, effective October 1, 2019. The automatic adjustment formula is a tariff mechanism that seeks to track and incorporate movement in key determining factors to reflect the real cost of electricity and water quarterly. The following factors were considered in computing the automatic adjustment formula, and it lists them as follows: the Ghana cedi US dollar exchange rate, inflation, price of crude oil and natural gas, fuel mix, crude oil, natural gas and distillate fuel, generation mix, that's hydro and thermal, power purchase costs, demand forecast, electricity costs, which it says is a major cost component in water production. The Commission, however, wishes to reiterate its commitment to embark on effective tariff monitoring program aimed at providing the end user improved quality of service. And this is signed by the Executive Secretary of the PRC, Mrs. Mami Dufie Ofore. And the Coalition of Unemployed Private Nurses picketed Monday at the Health Ministry to demand immediate employment by government. According to the group, privately trained nurse assistants who graduated between 2013 and 2016 are still home jobless. Some of them who spoke with Joy News say they have been neglected for far too long.
For my posting, because there was a letter circulating in all media that private nurses from 2012 to 2016 are being posted. But here lies the case, it's only the degrees and it's only the diplomas who are being posted. But it is circulating that all private nurses have been posted. Yes. I completed 2015. How many years now? Yes. 4 years now. And what do you want me to do? Yeah. We can't marry. We can't care for our parents. Yeah. We can't do anything. We can't do anything. We really passed. And see how we are here. What even pained me is we learned those that they are at home, the private nurses who are at home, they didn't pass, which is not true. Yes. I have my certificates here. This is my pin. Everything shows clearly that I need to work.
But we are Ghanaians. We completed since 2012. As at now, we have not had our postings. Every year, we have to renew the pin. Why are we getting the money to renew the new pin? In fact, we need Nana to post us now.
It's not been posted. We are still in the house. So Nana, please post us.
We are all nurses. So far as we are able to hold the same certificate and the same pin, meaning we are all nurses. We are all qualified to work. Therefore, they have to do something about it. The letter that they brought is a wrong letter that they brought. It was only 2012 that they posted. Most of us are in the house. That's why we are here. We want our posting.
Speaking with Joy News after a closed-door meeting with authorities, PRO for the coalition, Patrick Esiedu, said they have been assured they will be posted in 2020.
Today, after our picketing, Dr. Sabri, who is the HR, engaged us with a London meeting. And what he made us understand is, for we, the health assistant clinicals, the clearance that came were not parts. We weren't captured. That is from 2013 to 2016. What the communicators and the ministry and other people are saying in the media landscape, that they posted all private nurses, which we are inclusive, is not true. So the way forward is from him Dr. Sabri that since we are not captured, they are now seeking for financial clearance from the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance, and that will be captured in 2020 budget. So early January going, we will get our financial clearance and we will be posted subsequently.
And that'll be all for the bulletin for this evening. I'm Israelite. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night. Hotline, our Hotline documentary is up next.